Welcome back to our How to Design series, where today's episode is going to be a little bit different. For the next few episodes, we are going to actually be building a factory in a series. That way we can focus on a core component of building, and you guys will be able to follow along throughout the whole process. So the factory we're going to be making is a smaller power plant. So we're going to produce a total of 267 fuel going into fuel generators. And I believe that's 22.25 fuel generators if they are clocked at 100% speed. We're also going to have a byproduct of 200 polymer resin that we will be sinking, and the total number of buildings we're going to use is going to be 1 oil extractor, 10 refineries to make some heavy oil residue, and then 6.7 refineries for the fuel making process. And then on top of that, we have our fuel generators, which I believe again are 22.5, and 1 awesome sink to sink the polymer resin. Now there are a couple of alternates in this method of making fuel, but this is just an example that I wanted to use. And today's design video is going to really focus on being prepared to make the factory and the frame or foundation part of the factory. This might not sound as exciting to you, but it will definitely help you later on down the road, especially with the 1.0 changes coming, and it will definitely help you if you ever plan to expand a current factory. So with that being said, let's look at the starting area that we're going to be using. So currently we are down south at pretty much the furthest southeast point you can be, where there is a lot of oil, and we're only going to be using one of these nodes. So we do have room for expansion in the future, and that's something we want to keep in mind when we're building this factory. So to start, I like to get a general platform down. Building in this area, especially above this lake, can be kind of challenging because there's a lot of terrain and foliage around the lake. And this is why knowing all of the production buildings that you'll need will help you with knowing how much space you'll need to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and expand out this platform, and then we can start placing down some stuff just to see how it would fit. All right. So I have placed down all the production buildings that we'll need. Besides the oil extractor, we have 17 refineries in total, and then I've placed down 24 fuel generators. Now we only need 22.25, but for symmetry's sake, I decided to go up to 24, and then we can underclock some of them. But you could also go to 20 and then overclock a couple of them as well. And then lastly, we do have the awesome sink right here. Now this is not a final placement, but it gives you an idea of kind of how much space all this is going to take up and how much real estate you have left after the initial maybe platform you built. So you can see we have a good amount of space outside of the refineries to work with, a little bit of space in the middle, and then a little bit of space in between each fuel generator line, which my mind always goes to having walkway access to these fuel generators. And doing walkways, a lot of times you can hide the piping and, you know, maybe make it look a little bit cleaner. In terms of extra space for the fuel generator area, there's not much because we got our generators, we have room for walkways, and that's about it. So for me, I think this platform will facilitate what we are going to want to do, and definitely with some room to spare. And because we're gonna have walkways maybe on the outside here for the fuel generators, we might want to continue that aspect around the whole factory, which means now I think the foundation probably should be a little bit bigger than the platform. So our foundation might extend out a little bit, and of course we're gonna go all the way down, and we can kind of hide this big gaping hole, because if you are doing a, let's say, diluted fuel recipe, you're definitely gonna need pull water as well, and you'd be able to house your water extractors inside the foundation. But if you've gotten to the point where you're comfortable with the platform size, the next thing that we want to do is take that overall size and come up with an overall shape of the factory. And this doesn't have to include much detail at all. We just want to get a cool shape or frame so that when we move to a detailing step, it makes it that much easier. This may be the hardest part for some of you watching, so we're going to go through this process, and hopefully I can show you a few ways to get some inspiration or practical ideas. And we are going to start from zero, meaning that we don't have any idea of what we want our factory to look like, but luckily we have tons of options to help us come up with ideas and visualize this build. Our first option is to look up images or pictures of buildings, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, and some of you may know that I really like brutalism style building, but there are tons of different styles and you get to choose what you like best. So I'm going to type in something like unique brutalism buildings, and scroll through images. And I've used some of these before actually, like this one that inspired my train station roof for a big material factory. But obviously there's going to be like millions that I haven't seen before, and that will definitely give me some cool ideas, like these. And sometimes when you see some of these pictures, you may just want to incorporate a small part of the image rather than the whole thing, and this is a pretty cool example of that. This almost looks like something that could come out of Satisfactory as is, and could act as a very cool support, so I'm going to keep that in mind. And so going through all of these images, you can compile a list that is full of different ideas or a combination of things that will hopefully help you figure out what you want this build to look like. Now, if you're still stuck trying to come up with a general design, you can also use Microsoft's AI image generator. It is free, and all you do is you give it a prompt and it'll give you 4 images back. And I think you get like 10 prompts a day, and some of these images can be a little wacky, but you can really get some unique shapes out of it, so that can help in some circumstances. And then there's always the option of looking through YouTube videos of other creators' builds and finding things you like about those builds and then trying to incorporate that into your own. Alright, so after spending some time looking through images and whatnot, I found a good amount of pieces that should allow me to build something cool in game. And there's a couple that I actually haven't seen before that I really like. So to start, I found this really cool design concept for the exterior of the build, and I'm not exactly sure how I want to incorporate this, but I really like it. There's also another image here that I want to try to incorporate for the roof design, and I'm not entirely sure I can make this fit this detailed, but I do want to try. And then there are various different images that I like parts of that we may want to throw in at different points in this build. And there are a couple other aspects of this build that I do want to incorporate, like a road that kind of goes in at foundation level. And we'll figure out more how that fits once we get to that building part. And then one other final thing that I do know that I want is for the fuel generators. I think I just want to have like these overarching beams that still make it feel like you're outside, because I don't really want to put fuel generators inside because they have an exhaust, and in a normal building, you wouldn't really have that. So I think with this pile of images and inspiration that I've gotten, I think I've figured out some general ideas of how I want this factory to look. And putting all of these ideas into the building will start next episode. I will try to refrain from detailing too much, as I want that to be kind of in its own episode as well. If there's any information or step in the process that I may have missed that you wish to see me cover, let me know and we can start with that on the next episode, and let me know what you thought. I do enjoy making these, and hopefully some of you guys find some useful information in this or some new ways to build a factory. But I think that's going to do it for me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
I'm slick with words, tongue sharp, you left in thirds. You pitching verbs, I knock it out, I'm flipping birds. While smoking herbs, I'm blocking out what often hurts. I'm moving herds, it's me, my family, money merge.